Be talking about solving using the quadratic formula. Now, the cool thing about the quadratic formula is it's basically all of the steps for completing the square in one step. So, or one step, then simplify. So I need to show you that first. So if you do not want to see this, you do not have to watch it. But I think it's very important to understand why, when we're going to choose what to solve a quadratic with, we know that we can always use this, even if it is not a quadratic that can be factored or not a perfect square. So when we complete the square, we divided by that leading coefficient, which in this case is a. So now we have x squared plus b over a x plus c over a, remembering that c over a is just a constant. Then we're going to move the constant over. And so we'll have x squared plus b over a x. And I'm going to go ahead and make room to complete the square. Whatever we add to one side, we add to the other. How did we complete the square? Well, we took the middle term and divided it by 2, but we knew that that's just multiplying the bottom by 2. And we're going to get b squared over 4a squared. So that's what we added to both sides. So we just made a perfect square, and we made it out of these were made into x, and then what did we square? We squared a b over 2a. So there's our perfect square on that side. On the other side, we have to create a common denominator by multiplying by 4a. So we will get b squared. On the top, we have b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over the same denominator, which is 4a squared. Now we have our perfect square, so we take the square root, plus or minus. Now we remember, when we take the square root of a fraction, we take the square root of the top, and we take the square root of the bottom. Well, nice for us that the bottom is just going to be 2a. So now what we're going to end up having is x plus b over 2a is equal to plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Well, that's cool because we have a common denominator now when we get our x alone. And our common denominator is 2a. And so x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over our common denominator of 2a. And there's our quadratic formula. So we got the quadratic formula by just applying the complete the square method to the quadratic equation. Now here's the deal. That means that no matter what the quadratic equation is, you can use quadratic formula, okay? But here it has a square root in it. So if you're looking for real solutions and you get a positive number, you're going to end up to get 2 real solutions. If you have the square root of a negative number, those are going to be 2 solutions, but not real. So these ones are real and these ones are imaginary, okay? Now we are going to look at if I have the square root of 0. If there's nothing in there, we're only going to get 1 real solution, because you can't, when you add 0 and subtract 0, you just get the same number. Okay, so what are some of the steps that we need to follow? Well, first we need to have it in standard form. And standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So what does that mean? 0 on one side, right? So 0 on one side, and we're good to go. Next, we're going to identify our a, b, and c, and those are the values that are in front of the variables and then also the constant. And then what we're going to do is substitute the values into our quadratic formula. And then I also want you to be able to identify the discriminant. And we were just talking about the discriminant because the discriminant is only what's underneath the radical. That's the part of the quadratic formula that is underneath the radical. So when we talk about discriminant, we're going to be talking about b squared minus 4ac. Just that. That's it. Okay, so those are the things I want you to be able to do. Okay, so we're going to start by solving this by quadratic formula. But guys, we have to have 0 on one side. Otherwise, it's not in the standard form. So 3x squared plus 2x minus 4 is equal to 0. So we got 0 on one side. The next thing we're going to do is identify our a, our b, and our c. Cool. Now, we know, we don't have to write this down every time, but we know that the quadratic formula is x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I want you to think about it as blanks. Like you have to fill in these blanks. So we have blank squared minus 4 times blank over 2 times blank. So we're just going to go ahead and fill those green values in. So our b's are 2, our a's are 3, and our c is negative 4. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just evaluate what we have. So the opposite of 2 is just negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. Now I want you to think about this as one number. So 12 times 4 is 48. So this would be plus 48 all over 6. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 52 over 6. Okay, now we've got to simplify. Now this is going to be sometimes the tricky part of this problem because you have 3 different values here. This guy, and this guy. And anything we take out of the top and the bottom has to be taken out of all of the terms. Okay, so let's first simplify 52 and see if we can take anything out. So 52 is 2 times 26, which is 2 times 13. Ah, that shows us that we can take a 2 out. So we're going to have negative 2 plus or minus 2 radical 13 over 6. Now remember that little triangle we were talking about? We have these 3 outside values, and they have to have something in common, otherwise we can't take it out. And we see that they all 3 have a 2 in common. And so if I take a 2 out of the top, I'll get negative 1 plus or minus radical 13. If I take 2 out of the bottom, I'm just going to have 3. So the simplest version of this, and let me just move this over so I have a little bit more room for the other problem. So the simplest version of this is going to be, let me just put that back, is going to be simplifying this 2, taking it out of all of the terms and getting negative 1 plus or minus radical 13 over 3. And that will be our solutions. And I say solutions because we have a plus or a minus in there. Okay, let's go on to this one. This one's also a little different because we're going to need to distribute this first. We need that standard form. And in order to get the standard form, we need to have no parentheses. There's no parentheses in standard form. So to eliminate that parenthesis, we are going to get 4x plus 2. Now we need a 0 on one side, so we'll subtract the 4x and we'll subtract the 2. So we're going to end up 3x squared minus 4x minus 2 is equal to 0. Whoo, we got standard form now. So let's relate this to our a, which is 3, our b, which is negative 4, and our c, which is negative 2. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put the opposite of something plus or minus the square root of something squared minus 4 times a times c over 2a. Now I'm just going to put my values in. And so my a is 3. Put our a's in. My b is negative 4. And my c is negative 2. All right, let's simplify. So the opposite of negative 4 is just a 4. Plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared is 16. And remember, we're treating all this as one value. So this is positive 12 times 2, which is 24 over 6. we simplify this, and we're going to get plus or minus, don't forget that. We're going to have 40. Oops, I dropped my pen. 40 over 6. Now, we are going to simplify the 40, and that's 4 times 10, which is 2 times 2. So a 2 comes out and a 10 stays in. So 4 plus or minus 2 radical 10. Once we've simplified the radical, we're going to look at our triangle, our 3 outside values, and see if they have something in common. And the answer is yes, they all have a 2. This guy will become a 3, this guy will become a 2, and that guy will just be the radical 10. So 2 plus or minus radical 10 over 3. And those are our solutions. Whew, okay. So let's talk discriminant now. We already talked about the discriminant, and we're just talking about b squared minus 4ac, right? The discriminant. And if it's positive, we're going to have 2 real solutions. If it's just 0, we have 1 real solution. And if it's negative, we have 2. We don't have any real solutions, but we have 2 complex solutions. Okay, cool. So we only need b squared minus 4ac. So that's 2 squared minus 4 times a times c. So 4, and remember this is all together. So 4 times 21 is going to be 84. So we're going to have 4 plus 84, which is 88. Well, 88 is definitely greater than 0, right? So we know we're going to have 2 real solutions. So this is the number of solution and the type of solution. Okay? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do the next one, but we can't even get a discriminant unless it's in standard form. So we have 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 is equal to 0. So our b is negative 4 squared minus 4ac, and our a is 4 and our c is 1. So this is 16 minus 16. Oh my gosh, that's 0. Well, we know that if it's 0, we're going to take the square root of 0, which is just 0, which means we're only going to have 1 real solution. Okay, I hope this helped you guys.